behind us, only for them to resurface and resurface with a vengeance in this election cycle. Is that perhaps what you meant by, what exactly did you mean?
Yeah. All right. So there are building blocks towards the democratic edifice, always. And what we're witnessing is that as those building blocks, and by that I mean meetings like Hands Across the Niger, Hands Across the Nation, private meetings, group meetings, always with a focus in mind where you want to go eventually. Like, what kind of system do you want? What kind of ideology should bind all of you together? And which political party best promotes that ideology? All those building blocks have been knocked away, so that there was no difference left between, for instance, the two major parties. Movements of individuals across had totally vitiated identity, ideological identity. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Now, another building block, when we told the youth, listen, you have enormous voting power. Why don't you meet among yourselves? Give us a consensus candidate. I met literally all the young people. I'm talking about the last election,
yes. Not this
one. No.
Right.
The last one, I met all the young people. I addressed them at a place not far from Alausa collectively. I addressed them individually in twos and threes. I told those, I won't mention, they said, look, don't waste your time. There's no way I will back somebody like you, And I remember one of them complaining, I wasn't looking for a godfather, as if I offered to be his godfather. I already have enough godsons. But anyway, these meetings went on. So this is a part of the building blocks. And when they failed, for instance, I remember once we invited Obi Okwesili to try and negotiate among themselves. Then she ended up becoming a candidate, remember?
Herself.
So it was all very complicated, But one by one, those building blocks were being knocked away by seasoned politicians, because they saw what was happening. They saw the possibility of a change. And they're politicians. Their life is politics. They're not going to sit down. I mean, people, as somebody once said, you don't sit down and wait for democracy to fall in your lap. You have to work for it. You have to fight for it, You have to negotiate for it. But don't sacrifice your principles. And so we have those other blocks. In other words, this election actually is a consequence. I mean, what happened at these elections, the emergence, for instance, of quote-unquote a third force. You see, it didn't happen overnight. It's a build-up on all those blocks that have already cited. And so the moment came when it seemed as if we had reached a mass moment. Unfortunately, a bit of fascism, from our observation, and this is one of the reasons why I was happy I was away at the time, a lot of fascism was creeping in. People saw what was supposed to happen, what we expected to happen, to be a divine command, to be inevitable, and to be right there and then, and began to act fascistically to other people. If you disagree with them on strategy, on even little issues of tactics, because they kept communicating with me that we don't like what we're seeing, what's developing here. So once again, the building blocks were not even just by the old brigade, but even by the youth. Oh, I forgot to mention SARS. SARS was another build-up.
Right.
NSARS was another build-up. Significant momentum in the mobilization of alternative force within the nation. So there was alarm. One, by the old brigade, and as I said, there was a creeping fascism within the ranks by the new brigade. I watched a program, and when I watched this person speaking on air, I said, I understand, I can see what I was hearing now about I could see how this new force was beginning to lose momentum, was beginning to lose even support because of a fascistic tendency among the followers. But I watched that program. Go and watch all the programs yesterday. You see that. I don't want to mention names or anything of the sort, but you will know the one I'm talking about. That how could a Democrat, a self-described Democrat, aspiring to power by democratic means, speak like that, in that inciting way, in that denigration of all the structures which are supposed in the end to come to the aid of an election. Those structures will not guarantee they will not decide the result, but they at least will guarantee a reasonable, sustainable edifice of the democratic process. And I listened to that man talking, and I said, oh God, Nigeria is in trouble.
Now, Prof, part of the reason why I said earlier that, and why I thought you were someone we could talk to about the nature of democracy, the way our own democracy has evolved, and why we seem